Welcome to the Mental Insights Podcast, a conversation aimed at understanding all sides of mental health, addiction recovery, and homelessness. Each interview will include one's personal experiences and insights, or an expert's advice and knowledge within one of these fields. The goal is to promote awareness, guidance, and support for anyone who is affected by these challenges. Thank you all for listening. Welcome back to the Mental Insights Podcast. This is your host, Brendan.cutuli, and we are here today for part 2 of the episode number 20 of season 2 of the Mental Insights Podcast with Kim Norwood. We're here to speak about family dynamics, so I'm excited to have you here, Kim, and to share more about your own personal insights in mental health.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
It was a wonderful conversation before where we spoke about what children are facing at a developmental level in their early childhood years. And we're going to bring into, another avenue of this being family dynamics. What kind of challenges can be into play in terms of parental figures, whether it's siblings, parents, how this can play a role in terms of one's mental health. And to really start out, what factors can really come into play in terms of affecting a family dynamic? What really factors can have that effect in terms of, a child's mental health?
And there are so many factors, but the biggest ones I see nowadays are time. We're all so busy, like, oh, this one's got soccer practice, this one's got to go to the doctor, this kid has this. And so we don't have that connection piece with our kids. It's like, oh, put your headset on, we got to get to this kid's appointment. And so that creates huge barriers because kids don't feel comfortable talking to their parents because they're like, oh, you won't understand. Or parents are so busy, they're like, yeah, I got to make dinner. Okay, yeah, I got to finish this business call, I'll get back to you. So actually having time to build relationships is all around a huge one. I think people are also just exhausted, and a lot of adults are really tired and they're depressed and they're anxious and they're worried about just needs of feeding their kids, being able to pay for things, how they look in community, what's going on with everyone around them, that it creates this pressure sometimes of you have to look a certain way to fit into a certain society. So then that puts pressure on the parent puts pressure on the child's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this adult amount of pressure. And it just cycles, right? So I think those are the two main ones. Of course, you have other things where it includes death, or it includes some very intense financial burden. It includes all kinds of things, drugs, alcohol. That's another big one. Nowadays, a lot of kids are finding their parents in these states when they're using drugs, and they're trying to figure out, how in the world do I rehab my parent? So it's the connection piece that we're missing. I feel like everybody is so driven on different agendas that we forget we have to really connect with our children. So
It's such an important aspect because, you see a lot of these issues that you're speaking about is happening, all over the world in terms of, when someone has they have a pathway. When a parent has something to do, they often put aside any other person, whether it's their partner, whether it's their child. There's so many different challenges that come into play. And you're speaking about one of the most important aspects is, that relationship. How are you connecting to one another? How are you supporting one another? And when there's not really a good relationship, when there's not good communication between two parties, what really aspects are you seeing change and being affected within one's mental health?
I see a lot of kids are reaching for negative things because it gives them attention. I see them also clinging to each other in a maladaptive way. I also see them shutting down and becoming very depressed. Like, it's a very eerie feeling to look at a child who's 8, 9, 10, and they're depressed, like, and they're in the depression of what we fear for an adult. Um, but those are some of the things that they're creating, or they're creating anxiety because it's like, if you can't pay attention to me, nobody will. So now I'm a terrible person. So it's really creating these senses of intense mental health disorders that people are dealing with, that a child may not necessarily be predisposed to, but has developed it because they can't have relationship and just find normalcy. So
It's even becoming a bigger issue as, we're facing this pandemic of everybody being in the same house, in the same apartment of, your parents need to, whether it's work or such, while taking care of their children, while being able to pay bills. There's many different factors in this play. And, what other challenges have you seen throughout this time, especially? And maybe how can a parent really support their child when you're maybe only a few hundred square feet away of a room, and how are you able to tell parents and even children to navigate these times, as you know this is something that really no one has dealt with before?
yeah. So the first thing I would say is I tell everyone to stop, think, and breathe, right? That's kind of one of my things that I live by in the therapeutic world, because with the pressure of everything going on, parents are just a little bit more frustrated. They're a little bit more anxious. They're a little bit tighter. So then the kids feel it. Like, our kids are natural empaths. So they feel everything we're feeling, and then we're yelling at them. So then they're yelling back, and then they don't have the outlet of going to school. They don't have the outlet of spending interaction time with their friends. They don't have any of their normal outlets, as well as the parents don't have their normal outlets of, man, I get to just ride in the car for 5 minutes myself. Like, all of our normal outlets are gone. So I tell everybody, before you even react or you speak or you feel yourself getting hot, you have to stop, think, breathe, and then you can act. So if your kid is just throwing paint all over the kitchen and you're like, oh my goodness, I have to clean this up, and the kid's just laughing and having a good time, and you walk in, you see it, you start screaming, not a good idea. At that moment, just stop. Let's look around and see the paint flying everywhere. Think about it. What can I do? Breathe, and then say, hey, I really need you to put the paint away. And we all got to clean this together. And then we're going to go outside and take a lap around the neighborhood, because obviously we each all have too much energy. So just really putting those things into play, and just understanding, like, you are going to be tense. Like, your sleep isn't going to be the way it used to be. So really, let's take time out to relax yourself. I joke with everyone, like, I have a 5-year-old and he has autism. And so being at home with a autistic kid who sleeps maybe 2-3 hours a night and is looking at you like, hey, get up. Even for me, I'm like, man, just go to bed, So I have to get up. I have to stop. I have to think. I have to breathe, and then react to him, as well as you really have to push that self-care. I got to get up every morning, and I have to do yoga in the morning, and then I have to do yoga before I go to bed. We're on a normal day, Tuesday, Thursday class, I'm good to go. So you really have to integrate things in for yourself to just have the ability to function in all the chaos that's going on. Because no matter what you do, everybody's stress levels up. So you have to really work on bringing those stress levels down. And it'll help the kids learn how to be less stressed as well.
It's such a great point, because there's many different ways in which their parents are especially being challenged at this point. And even children, we spoke about in the previous episode of how they come home and they're on technology, and then now you're in kind of this transition phase of they're probably on it for a majority of the day now, whether it's being educated through school online, and then they're probably using online uses to speak with friends, to communicate elsewhere. And this can bring up a lot of tense notions, as well as if parents are working from home as well. It's a lot of stimulation via technology. And you're speaking about great ways in terms of getting outside and trying to reduce that. So what other activities are good for a parent and a child to just get up out of whatever, if it's their house, if it's an apartment, if they feel cooped up in their space, and they need some kind of way in order to get away from the computer, the TV, whatever means of that they feel, stuck and truly associated with, what are ways in which they can kind of, shake things up and try to ease themselves, on top of doing, a little bit of breathing or yoga that is available at this time?
I always tell them you got to have a scheduled day. So our brains like train themselves to a schedule. So if you pick every day at 3 o'clock is our time, you have to have everybody at 3 o'clock. Everyone shuts the tablets off. Everyone shuts the laptops off, the TV, the game. Everything is shut off at 3 and we'll paint on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we'll take a hike. On Wednesday, it's raining. I can't take you where I plan to. Everybody go jump in some puddles. Like you have to have these building family activities every day at the same time. Whatever way you can get kids to get their energy out through art is always a huge one. Or you guys can find whatever you want in the house and make crazy music by drumming on pots and whatever. But every single day at 3 o'clock, you have to pull in activities that you do with the kids. Do you write letters to people in the nursing home? Do you go ahead and just teach them a skill they've never learned? Like we're going to learn how to build a bench together. Like every day at 3 o'clock, you have to reiterate, we are going to do this and here's the skill. And that'll help everybody as well. Everybody will be less stressed. We'll all be off the technology. The kids won't be as stimulated because right now when you put a machine in front of a kid, it just stimulates them. So then when it's bedtime, they're not going to bed. Like they've done nothing but stimulation all day. So you really want to make sure you throw those pieces in there and have it scheduled, because then the kids know, oh my goodness, 2:55, I hear my mom's alarm going off. Let me just get off before she says something, and they start to really move towards getting excited for what you have next. One thing that we've tried with a lot of my clients in my practice is I just have everybody go and get a Rubbermaid container from like Target. And then all they have to do is open the container and the kids are like, I can't wait to see what's in the container today. And whatever's in the container is what activity we're going to do for the day. So really trying to use anything tactile, weight or paint or water play or rice play, sand play. Just make sure it's tactile and you schedule it for every day. So.
Awesome. I love to hear that. And, some of these skills and activities are definitely truly at play in terms of, trying to bring in new ways to allow your brain to, function, learning some of these new techniques. And I think another aspect of this is, bringing in values within the family dynamic. And, what values can really come into play in terms of, implementing and improving one's family dynamic?
Well, not only do you guys stay connected and then the kids can have that communication piece with you whenever they have a problem, but it also teaches them how to be social. So if you guys go out as a family and hang out with another family, your kids have those healthy social skills to engage with other people. Then they take those healthy social skills to school and they take it wherever you go. So not only are you building this tight family bond where everyone can connect and they know you and they can predict how you're going to behave, because that's the biggest thing. Kids like to know that you're predictable. Kids do better with teachers that are predictable, whether the teacher is really strict or the teacher is really free. If they're predictable every day, that class runs smoothly. So the same thing with at home. If I know that you're going to be pretty predictable, of course, sometimes you'll fly off the handle. But if I know 90% of the time you're predictable, a kid's going to really work with you and they're going to develop the skills so that when they're older, they're also predictable and they won't need any of the negative things we try to shield them from. They won't need to find terrible relationships. They won't need to find drugs. They won't need to find any of that because it causes them to be very secure. And then they're secure in their family unit. They're secure in themselves, and everything just kind of flows better by doing that.
Wonderful. You're speaking about a lot of things in which it can truly, you can learn from not only your parents, but learning from yourselves as you're going throughout this. You can, create a lot of valuable skills, values in terms of what you can really transpire, as we spoke about in the initial part of, these translate later on in life, and these can really bring a big impact in the way you carry yourself and you interact with other people. And through these factors, what have you seen that how they've really forged one's behaviors, thoughts, and view of reality? What do these factors really have in terms of the impact of a child and what you see later down the line?
They're truly more confident. They're more successful. They're less anxious. They do not question things as much, and they just are more, best word, secure. You know what I mean? Like if you watch kids all in a group in high school, they're more of the ones that say, hey, today's Saturday, let's go to the football game. And they're the ones that are more screaming on the field like a crazy person, and all the other kids are like, I wish I could be them. And then you see that when they go to college, they're more successful. They don't necessarily have to hide behind or worry about social things or not flourish when they're in college. Like they do well because they have all of the skills. So giving them, because in life things come by us that are kind of terrible. And so if they have those skills and they're secure, they'll get through those difficult transitions and they'll be successful at the end. Whereas kids who don't have the skills a lot of times get stuck. And then they end up using other ways or trying to depend on other people to help get them out. Whereas a secure child will get themselves out. And then they have happier relationships. They have more friends. They have a more fulfilled life. They try new things. So they just benefit a lot more by being secure at a young age. So.
Which truly shows why therapy is needed, at all ages, at all levels, why at the earliest level we need to provide these resources and this support system for children to, uplift them and create their opportunity for success later on in life. And we spoke a little bit about what your hopes were for the future for creating more support systems within, educating children. And within this last question that I always ask my guests, it's to truly translate what you're currently doing into what you want to do in the future. And it's a hypothetical question in that you're given a large sum of money, and I want you to share what resources and where you'd allocate this money in order to, take this next step within educating children, within bringing about a support system in order to truly bring about a better way in educating mental health for children in general.
Okay. I would start, at the young age, like you had mentioned, 4 years old, and it's a big boom of 4-year-olds that go to therapy now. But that's where I would start. I would start with children that are going to preschool, and the preschool teachers would have someone who comes in and teaches those skills. Start teaching little things of, okay, you kicked Larry. Why'd you kick Larry? Let's use your words. And this is what you can do next. And have somebody there to facilitate it. And then the parents have to be involved. Like the parents would also have to understand, like, oh, this is what's going on. Here's how you can help at home. And then we translate that when they get into elementary school. And we always have therapists on board that can help intervene in difficult situations. And it's taught in the curriculum. Like every day, just like we take out for, music and math and writing and all these different subjects, which I totally agree with. I still feel like there needs to be a little mental health built in there, utilizing everything. Art therapy, we can utilize play therapy, we can utilize yoga, and it's a part of our curriculum. And the parents also get a chance to practice these skills at home. It's homework that goes home. And then as they get older, there's always these supports there. And then there's always people available that parents can say, this kid is really driving me nuts. Like, what do I need to do? And the parents have also gone to classes themselves and have learned how to make those connections with their kids and teach their kids to be secure. So that's where I would funnel the money if I had it. So.
Wonderful, Kim. I greatly appreciate that response, and hopefully that's something that we can look forward to in the future in terms of what's to come within the mental health field. As we're saying, we need to start at the youngest age possible to truly allow for children to grow up and become the adults in which they can be secure and be successful in any avenue in which they want to be. So I want to thank you for taking this time to be on the Mental Insights podcast. It was truly a pleasure, Kim.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
It was such a great conversation, and I think this can spark more of what's to come in terms of people trying to find new avenues and innovate ways in which we can support children. So I want to thank you again, and thank you all for listening to this episode. It was season 2, episode number 20 with Kim Norwood, and you can find all of her resources below in the show notes, and you can be sure to contact her if you have any other ideas or any ways in which she can support you throughout these times. So thank you all again, and this was your host, Brendan Catuli. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Mental Insights podcast. Make sure to reach out to today's guest or myself if you need any advice, guidance, or support in your life today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and review to this podcast so we know what you thought of this episode. I look forward to being in touch with you all in the next episode. I hope you all have a wonderful day.